Welcome back to the Thermo Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Jayton Miller, and today I have a very special guest here in the office, Mr. Dan Hochman. How you doing today, Dan?
Doing great, Jayton. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. So Dan is an UMZU ambassador. He's also been following UMZU for how many years now?
Yeah, probably like 6 years at this point.
Yeah. So you were following Chris like way back in the day, right?
Yeah, totally in the like test shock era and anabolic men and all that stuff. So
heck yeah.
Yeah, been following for a while.
So what do you do here in Boulder? You're a personal trainer.
Yep.
And you also have your own health company, correct?
Yeah, so I just have an LLC just for men's health coaching and working with guys honestly on a lot of the principles that I learned through Chris on improving their hormonal health and kind of dialing in their diet and exercise and lifestyle.
Heck yeah. That's sweet. You enjoy it?
I love it. Yeah, it's really cool to see like the transition that happens from like somebody who starts this work and like feels super foggy and unmotivated and their, body just hurts, and then they start dialing everything in and all of a sudden they're feeling like amazing, like they've never felt before. So yeah, it's really cool to witness and to be a part of.
Heck yeah. Is that your favorite part? Just kind of seeing that flip?
Oh yeah. I mean, hands down. I mean, everything in between can be challenging, because there's the weight fluctuations. A lot of times that happens, like if a guy's trying to like lose a lot of weight or, there's the fluctuation in like, motivation and stuff and staying consistent. But I've found that typically like they hit a certain stride and it's just like downhill from there, and it's incredible to watch. It's like, wow. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And that's called Empowered Souls?
Empowered Souls, yeah.
Heck yeah. What kind of went behind that name?
Yeah, so it's interesting because when I first decided to go into it, I wanted to combine like empowerment, or what's called like in the coaching world, like deep coaching. So like actually getting behind like core limiting beliefs and things like that, as well as the health aspect. So I wanted to look at it as like a full empowerment type work. And it's still very much a byproduct, I think, of getting healthier, because anytime somebody makes a switch in their health, it's inevitably going to like expose parts of their, personality that have been like lagging, or like maybe like what's stopping them from getting into a place of good health is like some kind of emotional turmoil.
Absolutely.
But I've since like transitioned a little bit more into just focusing on health and less deep coaching. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Are you still kind of passionate about the deep coaching?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just passionate about like learning about what drives people, and what drives myself, and just getting to the nitty gritty of like our belief systems and how that essentially creates our model and creates our life, So yeah, definitely still a passion of mine. But I've found a lot of times when I was splitting calls between just like deep coaching and other calls on just health, it was really overwhelming, because this person was like, oh, I've got to like do this and this for my health. And I'm like addressing why my father left me when I was like 7, So it's like a lot to process at once, and can kind of cause people to backstep a little bit. So
you're a pretty big fan of psychology?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I know we're both Peterson guys. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Is he your favorite?
I'd say so. Yeah, I really appreciate his like narrative and how he ties in like archetypes and things like that into just practical life and the way people work.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Heck yeah.
He's one of your favorites as well? Or?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely a fan of Jordan Peterson, specifically on his take on like the biblical stories. I feel like that he explains them in a way that I've never heard them before, and is a lot more abstract and less literal. Because I mean, a lot of people have a negative relationship with religion in general, and I think that these ancient religions have made their way throughout human existence for a reason. So there's a reason that they're there. And I think that we need to respect all of them, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, whatever it is. it's there for a reason, and there's something to learn from all of it. So he's very good with that. He ties in like a lot of different ideas and kind of like imagery into it that is just absolutely fascinating. So he has a bunch of like 2.5 hour lectures on YouTube. I've watched every single one of them. So if you're ever wondering what I'm doing in my downtime, I'm probably watching a lecture on YouTube. Yeah.
And that's really cool, man. Like, cause you brought up, also like how these stories have survived throughout time. And I think, a big reason as to why that is they're very human stories. They represent like themes and elements that are kind of irrespective of time and place, so I don't know if that's like kind of what you were getting at with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's foundational elements within them all that we can take from and learn from in some way. And there's parallels among just about all of them from what I've seen and from what I've learned up to this point. So, it's kind of interesting, but that's my kind of take on Jordan Peterson specifically is like his area in that. And then beyond that, I really like Jungian psychology. So Carl Jung.
Yeah.
He's awesome. The man is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I've only learned about Jung through Peterson. And one of the themes that stuck out to me the most was the theme of shadow integration, and how he talks about when the shadow isn't integrated, that's oftentimes when we see like the most disastrous things happen. And yeah, I'm curious, like, have you like delved into that at all, or like have any things that have kind of helped with that shadow integration for yourself?
Yeah, I've looked into it a little bit. I wouldn't say that it's something that I've practiced up to this point because I've been trying to learn so much. I haven't dialed in on that one specific topic. But one of the things that I watched in a Jordan Peterson interview was that the way that you reach enlightenment is whenever you can basically align all of the different parts of the psyche up. And then once they're fully aligned, that's whenever you are able to basically elevate into that state of enlightenment. So, I mean, it's definitely important. You got to integrate the shadow and all of the other parts as well.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Michael Holt, owns a company called The Savage and Saint. And he talks about like savagery and like having outlets for savagery. So like martial art practice and things like that. And then also like service and having that be like saintliness, and how it's really the integration of the two that makes like a healthy functioning person. And I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can definitely see that because, for instance, if you ever meet somebody who's been practicing martial arts for years on end, there's a certain energy that they give off. Like there's a certain vibe that whenever you talk to somebody like that, it's just like they got something figured out. Like there's something there that I'm not familiar with, and I really want to learn.
Totally.
It's almost like a Zen kind of state, but I feel like it's a confidence as well that they develop over time.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like confidence in its purest term because there's nothing like postured about it. It's just like a really core confidence, like a quiet confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus they're always prepared.
Yeah. 100%.
Always prepared.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, before COVID, I was going to Easton Training Center, which is like a jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai place. And, I just kind of noticed it in myself, like having that kind of practice. Michael Holt talks about it as like taking the garbage out, right? Where it's like you have that outlet to take the garbage out so that in your, besides like learning a practical skill, you have an outlet so that whatever is like in you isn't building up and then coming out in like really sideways kind of ways. So
absolutely. I think that's one thing that a lot of people tend to struggle with is like the correct expression of their emotions. Like those emotions are present and they're supposed to be there. That's the reason that we have them. But are you expressing them in a way that is most progressive towards your path?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that looks like?
Martial arts is a good example in terms of aggression. I think that, some people express happiness in different ways, and they can do it in a degradative way. For instance, going out partying for hours on end, and not really looking at how that's affecting the grand scheme of things and like the compensatory mechanism that happens whenever they're doing that, because they're not going to wake up very happy the next day whenever they go out and do that.
Contest.
And I'm definitely speaking from experience from that one. But so that's one. Or like being depressed. Yeah. If you're in a state of depression, just realizing that you are depressed and, just settling the fact as to why you're depressed, how you're handling it and where you want to go from there and how do you get out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think like going full circle, not realizing, how our environment and our habits influence our emotions, and the ways we feel. One of the things that occurred to me in college, going through, I think it was probably my sophomore year, I was going through a really rough patch. And it didn't occur to me that like my habits were either like supporting me being in like a joyful state or supporting me being in a state that I feel terrible, and I've noticed it also with people I work with where it's like, just like moving their body more than they do, getting to sleep, like doing certain things in their self-care really influences their mood on a day-to-day basis. And all the problems that they thought were as a result of like something circumstantial were actually a result of the things they're doing day in and day out, so.
Absolutely. What are some of the kind of like paradigm shifts that you've had that have kind of like helped you get back on the path that you want to be on?
Yeah, totally. Paradigm shifts like in result of like my mood or just in general?
Yeah. So like, a couple for me would be like scarcity versus abundance mentality.
Oh yeah.
Like whenever I came to that realization, I was like, whoa, this changes everything. Yeah. And then another one was like radical responsibility. Everything is my responsibility. All the choices that I've made have gotten me here. All the choices that I make from here on out are going to get me to where I want to be. Or you could be making subconscious decisions that are not allowing you to get to where you want to go as well.
100%. Those are huge. And I think those have definitely been major themes in my life, particularly the one that you mentioned about abundance versus scarcity. That has been like the biggest eye opener in my day-to-day life, and like how that not only affects your dating life, but also your relationship with money. Like it's fascinating to me how like there are certain like systems in the world that like cross numerous spheres, so that one was pretty big for me, like noticing how when I'm in a state of abundance, I'm attracting more to myself in all these various areas of my life. But same goes for a state of scarcity, so that was pretty big. I think another really important one for me too was noticing how, again, like the things that I do on a day-to-day basis, like, or like putting, something in the bank account. It's either like, putting something in there that I want, right? It's putting some money in there, or it's putting something in there that's going to be detrimental down the line. So really taking inventory of like, the things I do on a day-to-day basis. Like one super simple one is like making my bed every morning. I make my bed every morning. And that's another Peterson thing, clean your room, and it's crazy how much just those subtle things affect how you go into your day and affect how you feel about the space in which you spend the most time in, so.
Absolutely.
That's been a huge one. For sure.
So one of the things that I think of whenever you speak of that is like control the things that you can. And that's one of the things that you have the most control over. I tend to be a pretty tidy person, and that's why. It's because like I feel like the environment in which you live in is also the a direct reflection of the internal environment in which you live in. And I don't know, I find it a lot easier to be productive and, you know, also relaxed whenever I want to, whenever I'm rather tidy. So it throws a lot of people off because, like, I'm 22 years old. They walk into my apartment probably expecting a pigsty, and then they get like this immaculate apartment. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it makes sense too, because I view like clutter as like a form of noise, you know? So like whether you're aware of it or not, it's like stimulus that is affecting your nervous system and affecting the way you function. So like reducing that noise is going to make you more productive. It's going to make you feel better. So yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another big one that Jordan Peterson tends to talk about is like, always make sure that you enter your home in a way that is most optimal. So don't go in pissed off. Don't go in super anxious. Like, take a breath before you step in. You know, if you have a significant other or a child or something like that, tell them like, this is the way that I would like to be greeted whenever I come home. And this is why, you know, it makes my day just a little bit better, even if it's not really noticeable to them. Like, that's why so many people have pets, because dogs get it right every single time.
For sure. Totally. Yeah. It's so important. Have you noticed, like, in your like day-to-day life, like the people you keep around, friends and stuff like that, typically are on the same page about, you know, those kind of dynamics?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would say that I am definitely observant about how I interact with the people around me, and then like what's rubbing off, how am I rubbing off on them, and how are they rubbing off on me. One of the things that I notice is like, I'll FaceTime my cousin. Me and him grew up practically brothers. I'll FaceTime him more and more frequently, and whenever I do, I immediately fall back into my bro mind, like almost immediately. So I definitely have to be cognizant of that and make sure that it doesn't go beyond that specific FaceTime. But
sure.
It's also nice to slip back into and be a bro for a minute.
Yeah, it's good to take a hiatus. I mean, I have that with like college friends of mine, you know, where, you know, we can just slip back into being idiots again, you know. And I think it's cool to have, like, you know, the people in your life that maybe you spend the most time with who are on a similar path and see things similarly. But I also do believe, like, you know, I don't think it's ever a good idea to just like cut people out of your life that, you know, you have history with, and you know, even if they're not on the same page necessarily.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's on their own path. I would say that if the relationship is toxic, it definitely needs to be taken care of. Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, you know, as long as they're not holding you back and not interfering with the things that you want to do, I think it's probably a good relationship to have.
Totally. So I know, like, you know, you're somebody who trains pretty frequently as well, and you know, works out. And I'm curious, like recently, if you've noticed any things in your training that you're putting a specific emphasis on, or that have been reaping the most benefit to you personally.
So like, as far as the exercises and things that I'm doing, so I just got rid of my gym membership because it went up another $40, and I was like, I am not paying for that. So recently just started working out at the office. We got like some little weights and bands and stuff in the back over here. That's honestly been pretty nice, because I'll come in here at like 5:30 in the morning, work out for 45 minutes to an hour by myself, don't have to worry about anybody, and it's great. Obviously not the most optimal time to be working out, but it is good. And so I've been putting more emphasis on, I would say, body weight movements here recently. You know, I'm about 190 pounds, so there's a lot of weight to move around. And specifically with core strength and rehabilitating my knee, I blew it out in jiu-jitsu back in July. And so it's still like, it's pretty much healed up at this point, but I'm just making sure that it's fine-tuned for ski season whenever that comes around. So focusing on that, focusing on core strength to make sure that, you know, whenever I do hit certain jumps and stuff on the mountain, so I guess I'm pretty much training for functionality so I can maintain my physique. I'm not saying that I have a good physique by any means, but just maintain what I have. And then create functionality that's going to directly result in better skiing.
Yeah. So like supporting the activities you enjoy. And
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been in a similar boat for a while, and also just geared towards athleticism. And like a big goal of mine when quarantine broke out was like getting a sub 5 40-yard dash. And that was really fun to train for. And
did you get it?
I did. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So that was cool. And it took a few weeks, and also like going back home and like, critiquing my form and my starting position and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoy like, puzzles in that kind of way. I'm working with my body in that way. So, but that's cool though that you've been like emphasizing a lot of calisthenic training.
Yeah, definitely. It's been interesting. I mean, it's not something that I've ever focused on solely. So I think taking that route for a little while, taking a break from the barbell, because it's something that over the past decade has been in my life. So getting a nice little break from it, focusing on body weight, just kind of creating functionality, creating health, letting my body heal. Because after a decade of training, there's definitely, a couple tweaks that I've been dealing with over the years. So I think just taking a break for a little while is going to be good.
Have you like noticed like any movements in particular that you're enjoying the most?
Muscle ups have been pretty fun.
Nice. Been
slowly working up on those. I'm about 3 sets of 7 right now. So
that's big. Nice.
Slowly getting there. I can't do muscle ups in the office, so I'm going to have to go find a couple random bars that I can do some muscle ups
North
on.
Boulder Park, man. That's
right. Oh, yeah? Is there some up there?
Yeah, they have, right at the edge of, the like jungle gym area. There's like a high bar and like a mid bar. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
You'll probably see me over there a couple times then.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, what kind of things do you think about whenever you're going into training? Like what's kind of like your mode of action to get the best possible result?
100%. Yeah, I think for me, what keeps me engaged is trying to progress in each session, trying to push some form of progress, whether it's, on like a certain key lift. I typically find like what takes me out of an engaged mode is when I'm falling into a routine and not really striving towards anything. So having certain goals where I could see like marked improvement is really important for me. And then something that I know Chris talked about, which is like having a view towards like dominance in each exercise, like going in not just passively, but also like really trying to push the envelope as much as you can. That keeps me engaged. I've been doing a lot of Turkish get-ups recently. Okay. And that's been a learning curve. Yeah. Because the first like few weeks that I was doing it, I was either like leaving out part of the progression or doing part of the progression like with poor alignment. But that's been a really like fun new move to incorporate, especially for core stability.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Have you done it with the barbell yet?
I have.
Really?
Yeah, and that was super intense. I haven't done it with any like weight on the barbell, but just the barbell. And the biggest thing that started happening was I noticed that my shoulder wasn't in an ideal position, so I was able to stabilize it. But I sort of went back to a kettlebell because I wanted to really make sure that my alignment was right and without injuring anything in my shoulder. So yeah. Have you given it a shot or? Have you given it a shot?
I did a CrossFit workout with my buddy probably like a year and a half ago, and we did some Turkish get-ups. I don't remember liking them. I remember that.
Yeah, Joe Rogan talks about them a lot. It's like it's the most underutilized exercise in the gym. Like you never see people doing Turkish get-ups.
Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. I mean, you utilize just about every single muscle in your body.
Everything.
Yeah. So as a personal trainer, what is kind of like your favorite way to train the people that you train?
Sure. Yeah, I love that question. I think for me personally, I want people to get proficient in movements again and patterns of movements. So, whether I'm starting with somebody who's like, had a lot of fitness experience already, or starting with somebody who's, not really in shape and needing to kind of build a base level of strength, working with their bodies to accommodate where they're at, and also like make them proficient over time in certain movement patterns. So there's a guy that I'm working with right now who, when we started, was not able to do like any pull-ups or, dips or anything like that. And just over time, working with bands or working with a machine that we have, the Gravitron, which like takes off a little bit of weight week by week, and seeing like him getting better at like his pulling strength and his pushing strength, and working with him on his squats. It's really cool to see people progress in those like basic movements, as well as like I like training people towards like power generation in their workouts. So not doing a lot of work on the exercise bicycle or stuff like that, but more so doing movements that engage their whole body in a dynamic way. That's exciting, because that's how I like to train. So I think that necessarily like just transfers into how I train people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you find it kind of humbling training people all the time?
Yeah, I find it humbling in the sense that, there's always space for me to learn. Like there's always things for me to, observe about the way they're moving, and then tweak it in my approach to training other people. I also just find training myself really humbling. I don't know if you experienced that, but I'll have like certain weeks where I'll go in and I'm like, feeling on top of the world, cranking, on the exercises I want to be. And then I'll go back, a few days later, and it's like, my workouts are terrible. Like, what's happening? So it's by that, it's humbling in both areas. Have you found that as well? Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I'm not in nearly as good a shape as I thought I was.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also been times where I'll go in there and I'll throw up 20 more pounds than I was going to on bench press or on pull-ups or something like that. And it's like, I'm feeling pretty awesome today. So I think it is dependent on like, preparing for the session, especially if it's a big one, the mental state that you're in. I do notice that whenever I tend to be a lot more anxious, my strength plummets. Yeah. It's not good. And then I just noticed that my motivation tends to wane. But that's whenever discipline comes around and gives me a kick in the rear.
Sure. I one of the ones that sticks out in particular was that kettlebell workout that we did a while back over the summer. I just could not, at a certain point when we were doing the single arm carries and walking across the field, I could not carry it any further. Like my grip is just shot.
Yeah.
It's slipping from my hand, especially the fat grip on the kettlebell. So that was really humbling, I was like, wow, this is something to me that I wouldn't have thought twice about, like just walking across the field with, something in my hand. So
yeah, that was probably one of the days I was feeling a little bit better. I was like, I gotta compete with these guys a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That definitely motivates, I've noticed having a workout partner where, we're both, similar in our skill level and progress, so we can push each other. And then if that guy does super well, you want to, be able to at least match him. So yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure. Gus is a beast too.
Gus is a beast.
Yeah. He's been on the podcast a couple times. I'm going to have to get him back in here.
Yeah. And he was a sprinter, right? You're saying?
I think so. I think he did the 400.
Okay.
I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he went to school for it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's a long guy too. He's tall.
So tall.
Yeah.
But he's thick too. Like he's got some muscle on him. Yeah. But shoot, what else you got for everybody?
What else I got? Oh. Well, I guess one of the things that has come up that I'm curious, like in your diet right now, like, are you noticing, like, do you have any like staples that you're, that you love consuming on a daily basis, or that like you've noticed make you feel the best? Cause I've been like getting a little bit bored recently of like beef and rice most, most nights of the week. So
I'll walk you through like my day of eating, because I mean, it's pretty much the same thing just about every day. And then I'll give you the variations of it, and then I'll kind of like go from there. That sounds good.
Please, yeah.
So I start off the day, pineapple and cottage cheese.
Okay.
Just about every single morning. Plenty of slow digesting protein, keeps me full for a really long time. Keeps my blood sugar elevated for quite a bit. And then, since I'm working out in the mornings now, that's like, I'll eat a whole tub of it. So it's like 56 grams of protein. So I'm getting plenty of protein before my workout.
Yeah.
So that's breakfast. Then throughout the day, you probably saw it on my desk whenever you walked in, my big old jug of orange juice. Put a scoop of collagen in there, drink that throughout the day. And then at night, I'll go home, rice, beef, eggs, hot sauce, bone broth powder. And then at night, I'll just have like a giant glass of milk right before I go to sleep. Make sure my glycogen levels are topped off. And then sleep like a bear most nights. My sleep is kind of inconsistent every once in a while. So I'll have like 3 good weeks and then like 1 like kind of good maybe week out of the month. But sleep is fairly consistent. But
got it.
But then like as variations of that, I'll toss like oysters into there instead of eggs. I'll do like, there's this local farm up in Longmont called Boulder Lamb and Meats.
Okay.
And they have like grass-fed beef and lamb and organ meats and all this stuff. So I'll switch up the beef for some heart, which is actually leaner if you trim it. And it has like, CoQ10 in there and stuff like that. So I do enjoy that.
Sure.
Might switch it for some liver sometimes. I haven't had liver in a while though. So that's like, and then every once in a while I'll toss some shrimp in there.
Okay.
Shrimp is pretty good. It's also like one of the highest glycine containing shellfish that there is. So that's pretty good. Let's see. That's pretty much it. I might add like some honey to it. Like to my big thermal bowl at the end of the night, just to kind of like get a sweet and spicy feel to it. But yeah, I mean, that's mostly what I eat on a daily. Like, I don't even think about what I eat. I just like cook it and it's there. It's one of the things that I've dialed it in. So it's like, I don't have to think about it. I have more mental space for other things to think about. But as far as those variations, that's what I do. And then like, if I go out to eat, usually pho is my first choice. Good. Yeah. I'll get like the tendon and tripe. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's really good.
For all the thermo warriors out there, that is a good date hack. Go get some pho with your lady.
Yep. Can't go wrong there.
Yeah. Sushi's is always good. If you're not going to get high quality sushi, I'll usually supplement with a little bit of activated charcoal before, just to kind of help chelate the mercury that's within the fish and stuff like that.
And then no soy sauce, obviously, right?
No soy sauce. No. Yeah, they put that stuff down on the table and I just give them like a weird look like, I'm not going to eat that. But then the girl that I'm with or whoever that I'm with, they'll typically eat it. I'm just sitting there. I don't say anything. I've learned throughout my years of doing this that it's better just to keep it to yourself and enjoy the moment rather than trying to explain stuff to people.
Yep.
I also tend to go down rabbit holes very easily. So
same.
Yeah, I can sit there and talk for hours on one topic for no reason at all.
Yeah. So what I've noticed too, and just what you're describing for your day, there's not a ton of fruit. You're not doing like a lot of fruit or stuff like that.
Yeah. The pineapple, the orange juice.
Yeah. It's not like you're doing a smoothie or like a acai bowl or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I've thought about incorporating that. I don't have a blender right now and I don't really feel like buying one. So
fair.
If you can't tell on this podcast, I am kind of a tightwad. So I have to force myself to spend my money a lot of the time.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm like the exact opposite in the sense where like almost all my money goes to food.
Really?
Like I'm such a foodie. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a hefty budget for food, but now whenever it comes to like buying a blender, it's like, I can take cottage cheese and pineapple for a couple more months until Christmas, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe somebody will come around and get me one.
Get you a blender.
Yeah.
There we go. Christmas gift.
Definitely.
Nice.
But what about you?
Yeah. You know, for a while I was kind of starting my day with, you know, some form of fruit. I would typically feel that like, you know, I would feel the best when I was doing like fruit and then like, you know, a slice of sourdough and like some butter and like maybe like a little bit of like grass-fed dairy cheese or something like that. That would typically keep me satiated like well into the day without really doing a ton of snacking. And then, you know, recently I've kind of just been doing for dinner, you know, like I said, like some kind of like beef and rice with like a tomato base. I also found at Ideal Market, there's like a Indian like masala sauce that doesn't have like any of the bad oils in it.
Oh.
So that was really cool to find because I'm like, okay, there's no PUFAs in this and I can still like have it with my beef. Because for a while I was just using like a tomato base. So yeah, big into like doing some kind of like chopped meat with like a good, you know, sauce and then either rice or potatoes. But recently I've been wanting to like up my culinary game a little bit and like actually, you know, making things other than like beef and rice or beef and potatoes, you know. So.
That's one of my secret weapons right there is my cooking skills. Definitely, for sure. It's a hidden talent. I like to think that I'm good at anyways.
Yeah, especially for a date, man. You can cook them, cook them
Yep.
dinner. Yeah.
Once they taste that food, they're like, man, he is worth keeping around.
There we go. Nice, man.
But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy cooking a lot. I used to cook with my mom and my grandma growing up. So like I was always at the cutting board ready to go to town.
Yep. That was also my favorite growing up was just chopping up like veggies or chopping up fruit or whatever. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Heck yeah. Where can people find you on social media, website, all that good stuff? Yeah.
So my social media is Dan.Hochman. That's Hochman for Instagram, and then just Dan Hochman for Facebook. And to learn more about the work that I do, my website is theempoweredsouls.com. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, for all those you listening, make sure to go check out his stuff. He's a good writer too. You got a blog on there as well.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Blog is definitely just kind of like some musings on, you know, thoughts that I have around health and empowerment and stuff like that. So,
heck yeah. Sweet. Well, check it out and we'll talk to y'all next time. Dan.
Cool.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jayton. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you want us to cover a different topic.